Well, thanks. Welcome to the weekly Zinzino Science Insight Zoom. I'm Stephen Cherniske, research biochemist. I'm here with my wife, Natalie Kather, a double board certified family practice physician. We're also members of the Science Advisory Board for Zinzino. And so we consider it our joy and our opportunity to share insights with you regarding the products and the goals and direction of the company, which we think is a remarkable endeavor, something which is not only worth your time and attention, but has the potential for being a life-changing experience for you and everyone you know. I'm happy to say that our last week's call, having to do with cellular biology, was a lot more popular than we thought it was going to be. And I think that has to do with Natalie's editing ability and her addition of some graphics and cartoons and and images that help people to understand the astounding complexity and the amazing and miraculous machinery within each and every cell of your body, and specifically how the Zinzino products and program then can enhance the function of each and every one of those cells and what that means for your energy, your vitality, the aging process, your quality of life. Does that make sense? Sorry. So a lot of questions came in. Jennifer Rao wanted to know all about this gold guy apparatus. And we tried to explain to her that that it was, where did the name come from? She wanted to know who named this. And of course, it was Camillo Golgi. But what you might not know is Camillo Golgi, a physician, an Italian physician, discovered this organelle in 1898. So that's remarkable too. And then, of course, Jennifer decided that she was going to ask her children on her first grandbaby to name their baby after Camillo Golgi. And she finally agreed that it would be Camillo, and naming a child Gold Guy was not really the way to go. Anyway, so thanks, Jennifer, for all that.
What a story. What a big tease story.
Well, it's teasing people to go back to last week's video and to look at the Golgi apparatus and remember what it does.
It's all about the membranes. It's about balancing the health of the membranes.
Now, we do have real questions that came in this week. The first one being, when will doctors finally start looking at the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio? And it's a good question, right? Why am I not hearing this from my doctor? I went for my annual physical. The doctor didn't know anything about what I was talking about. What is this going to change? And I think what we can say is there are certain types of doctors that are going to be the early adapters. I think we can look at Dr. Michael Lewis, our colleague, and another member of the Zinzino Advisory Board. We can look at Michael Lewis's work and assume that anyone involved in sports medicine is certainly going to be very aware of the omega-6 to 3 ratio as it refers to any traumatic brain injury. But I think we're also going to see that, again, because of Michael's work, I think we're going to see neurologists start picking this up.
Like Dr. Helen Kim.
Yes, Dr. Helen Kim, one of our colleagues. And then we're going to find functional medicine doctors, both here and in Europe, really figuring out that this is an easy way to get a foundational piece of information. Now, you've called this the sixth vital sign.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yes, and we did a Zoom last year in which I presented my argument that the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio and the addition of the omega-3 index really are the sixth vital sign, and that's important to see how they relate to all these other important vital signs like blood pressure, respiratory health, heart rate, heart health. So head to toe, and of course, body composition, that we want to make more muscle and be able to burn fat well to create real energy. And so having the information about this important cellular composition helps the physician and the clinical researcher have a better understanding of the kind of inflammation that they're dealing with and to get things to work better. Because we've talked about how when you have the cell membrane imbalance with a omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of 3 to 1 or better, that the membrane is more fluid, so nutrients get in easier, waste products get out, energy for the whole cell functions better. So, you say Europe, functional medicine in, the Americas, but really it's a global thing, and it needs to be acknowledged as the sixth vital sign. Yes.
Yes. Which is not to say that we're recommending that you go out and recruit and look at, your business plan of recruiting doctors. Not what we're saying, because that would be a difficult path to follow in terms of recruiting. My view is you always want to look for people that are health conscious, people that might not have heard about this incredibly important ratio.
Do you take omega-3 fats?
Do you take omega-3 fat?
How do you know that they're working?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Next question that came this was regarding Protect. You look at the Protect box and it says recommended 1 capsule per day, and then it says right underneath that, do not exceed daily dose. Why in the world would it say that? Because Natalie and I, when we're traveling, or especially if we're going to be in an enclosed space with a lot of people, we'll sometimes take 2. And so is there a danger in exceeding the daily dose? And the answer is no. I think it's there because the formulation includes 200 milligrams of beta glucan. Well, obviously you can take a whole lot more than that, and it's perfectly safe. But I think the formulation contains vitamin D3 at 20 micrograms, which here in the US is 100% of the daily value. So I think the recommendation not to exceed 1 is simply a caveat that if you take a handful of these, you're going to get multiples of the US daily value for that nutrient.
And for many of us, we're already on one of the systems for Zinzino, whether it's the Health Protocol or the Health Protocol Premium, and those formulations have vitamin D in them, and so we're adding a little more vitamin D after we go visit the grandchildren. We take our Protect.
Yeah.
Yes.
And finally, someone asked on the Extend. They were talking to somebody about Extend, and the person they were talking to said, "Oh, this contains sodium selenate instead of sodium or selenium selenate instead of selenium methionine, which is their favorite form of selenium supplementation." And they said, "Oh, sodium selenate is inorganic, and selenium methionine is organic, and therefore it's a whole lot better." The issue here is a confusing issue, isn't it? Because we're more primed to think that organic is better than inorganic. Because inorganic is like, well, that's not organic, right? But these are chemical terms. These are not value terms. And so
table salt is inorganic.
Yes. But the point is, these are chemical terms, and yet we tend to attach values to those chemical terms. Sodium selenate is a very valuable form of selenium. Selenium is deficient in most people's diets. You're getting 150% of the daily value in the 4-capsule dose of Extend.
And that's what I take every day is the 4 full.
Yes.
Full 4.
and so you'll be adequately nourished in selenium, and the fact that it isn't an organic compound is of no no consequence. In other words, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
Did I say
reassuring.
that clearly?
No, but I think it's reassuring.
Well, we think of organic as being organic fruits and vegetables, right? That's the value attachment that we have to the word organic.
Because of the
But in
language.
chemistry, it has no specific value. It just means that this chemical contains carbon and this chemical does not. If it contains carbon, it's an organic compound. If it doesn't, it's an inorganic compound. It's that simple.
So you're going to take your Extend today.
I'm going to take my extended. I'm not worried about
Okay.
the form of selenium that I'm getting.
Good. I like that. Well, I wanted to present today a research study that I found called Association Between Tryptophan Metabolites, Physical Performance, and Frailty in Older Persons. And this is from an Australian group, Australian Institute for Musculoskeletal Science, Geroscience, and Osteosarcopenia Research Program out of Australia. And this was published in 3 years ago, 2022.
So you know she's going to be talking about this.
Yeah, it's back
and how
to gut
important
health
this is.
test.
Good.
And we've talked about the gut health test and the 5 markers that it's looked at. And that includes ratios of tryptophan versus the kynurenine and tryptophan versus the IPA, which stands for indole 3 propionic acid.
I love when you talk like that.
Yeah, so I'm going to share my summary here.
Science alert, science alert.
Oh, yeah. Get ready to nerd out. Beware. This is overwhelming. So I just want to point out we're talking about tryptophan, which is an essential amino acid. It goes to different pathways, and we're going to talk about this pathway of kynurenine, or as you may remember me saying before, Ky-me, that increases when we have chronic stress going on. And we're going to talk about more about how chronic inflammation or an inflammatory process contributes to that. So when there's a lot of this building up, it means it's not going to these other ones down here, which are important for building a better body.
Oh, I like that. So go back. So the idea, following all these arrows, basically, it's saying that hey, when you ingest tryptophan, which you do on a daily basis from a wide range of foods, vegetables, and even some fruits contain tryptophan. Most of the tryptophan is coming from proteins, but anyway, we're all ingesting tryptophan. And then what you're saying is that depending on the state of your gut, specifically your inflammatory markers, is that right?
Right, inflammation.
Inflammation.
And not just in the gut, but
Right.
you
is going to move that
Ultimately.
tryptophan to metabolize more into the kynurenine as opposed to the IPA. And if you follow the IPA, you get all kinds of good things down here. You get energy.
Well, we're not following the IPA.
Ah.
That's a different pathway. That is the microbiome pathway. So I'm so glad you're bringing this up because what I'm talking about now is human physiology and not microbiota physiology.
Okay.
So in the human,
in
the poor, stressed out, my taxes are due, where are my homework assignments? Human. So in the human, he or she converts the tryptophan to kynurenine. And if she or he is in a healthy state and not burdened by inflammaging,
Got it.
then the work goes on to make more of this acid, more of this NAD plus, which some people might recognize that it's a cofactor for energy, and these biomarkers as well. Okay. So my analogy is that like kynurenine is the brick that arrives and needs to be processed into these other elements for building the house of energy.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, you're not laughing so much.
No.
Okay.
I'm digging it.
Okay, good. Who stops this? Who comes in and messes up this process? It's inflammation.
Okay.
Here's the summary chart of what they found in this study. Again, tryptophan is an essential amino acid. My favorite form is chicken meat. Yes. And if inflammaging is going on, there's going to be higher levels of kynurenine or kyne or Ky-me. But down here in this level, when there is proper processing of the kynurenine, it turns into these anabolic, protective molecules. So we want things to be able to process, and we do that by getting a better control over inflammation. Key findings: people that had higher levels of these more anabolic metabolites, they had lower levels of sarcopenia and frailty.
Okay. Sarcopenia is a loss of muscle.
They had better hand grip strength. They walked faster. They had better performance in their speed, their activities of daily living. And they had less frailty when they had higher levels of this marker compared to this marker.
Okay.
So kynurenine accumulates from inflammation, leading to muscle atrophy, mitochondrial dysfunction, and these more anabolic markers help mitigate or lower oxidative stress, and the mitochondria can function better. What does this mean for us? What is our action plan? So for our action plan, when we got our gut health test results back, and if we find out that we have higher levels of kynurenine, especially compared to where tryptophan is, then we want to come back to addressing the underlying causes of inflammation. And we have products that help us do that. We have the balance products which help us get us into the safe zone with an omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratio of 3 to 1 or better. And so we have balance oil, we have the premium balance oil, we have the Ascent capsules, we have Revo, which has olive polyphenols in it.
Love it.
Which helps fight oxidation and inflammation, because those are actually two sides of the same coin. We have Xenogene, and you can see how colorful it is from the curcumin. It also has quercetin in it, fucoidins, fisetin, and other ways of addressing inflammation. My favorite, Viva with saffron, which helps reduce COX-2 pathways, as well as other inflammatory pathways. Extend, which you just talked about, also has some more turmeric in it, as well as anti-inflammatory plant-based agents. Xenoshine, which is plant-based vitamin D3. Vitamin D is a natural anti-inflammatory. X Gold, which is turmeric. Brenna is a fan of X Gold. And blue juice. We have blue juice, which helps address underlying causes of inflammation too. And I remember from Orion speaking on Saturday that looking at the gut health tests, they found that the people that were supplementing xenobiotic, balance products, and Phycosi 20X, the blue juice,
Right.
had the best results.
So again, we're accumulating data as we go. The test has been extremely popular, and so we're getting a lot of data. And what Orion was saying is that in the initial analysis of the data that we already have in hand, it's showing that the people who are on blue juice, what are the three products that they were looking at?
Balance oil and xenobiotic.
Balance oil, xenobiotic, and Phycosi were showing across the board better results on their gut health test. Why? Because fighting inflammation is not a magic bullet. There's nothing that says, oh, this is the only anti-inflammatory compound that you need. No, it's not true. Natalie was just rattling off a number of anti-inflammatories that all need to be working together, which is why the system that Zinzino has produced is so incredibly effective in reducing inflammation. You know, you talked about frailty, and this is something that, people over 50 have to pay attention to. And there's multiple ways of doing that. Number one, obviously, we just talked about it. You manage inflammation. That's critically important because inflammation is going to contribute to what? Your loss of muscle strength. And that you had in your graph how a hand grip strength was a good measure of overall body strength, which is interesting. So you'll find that there are a lot of doctors using hand grip strength to get a sense of where that person is year after year after year. All right, because if you're continuing to lose strength in your hand, that's reflecting a loss of strength in your other skeletal muscles.
In my clinic, I used hand grip strength not just every year, but for certain clients, I used it at every follow-up visit.
Wow.
So see them back in a month, see them back in 3 months. We would use that to get a better sense of where they were going with their metabolism.
Frailty also includes falls, which is a major source of injury and sometimes serious injury in people over 65. To get a handle on that, one of the things that, again, we love hand grip strength. I'm happy that you were using that visit to visit. Um, Bravo. This is one unusual and amazing doctor.
It's the seventh.
Seventh vital sign. Well, it really is. Here's another thing you can do. Take out your smartphone and set it on your stopwatch and see how long you can stand on one foot. Because that's not only measuring the strength of your leg muscles and your buttocks and your back, it's also measuring the connection between muscular neurons and motor neurons and cognitive neurons. In other words, how well are your muscles talking to your brain? So that's another thing that you can do on a regular basis. And I don't mean just doing it on your birthday. That's a good time to do things like that. But to keep track of where you're at. And if you're talking to somebody who's not taking any Zinzino products, you might tell them, hey, there's some simple tests you can do besides your finger stick test. There's some simple things you can do to look at your level of inflammation. How long can you stand on one foot? Right? You ought to be able to stand on one foot for at least a minute. You also should be able to hold your breath for at least a minute. And if you can't, it means you've got some decrement, some decreased lung capacity. So you should be able to hold your breath for a minute. You should be able to stand on one foot for at least a minute. And then you can have them do that again after they've been on the Zinzino products for a couple of months. And we've seen some significant changes. And so I think that that's valuable too as we move forward. Frailty is a big issue. And we can get a handle on that for anyone that's approaching 50 is when you need to start paying attention.
So the authors in this study chose to look at these biomarkers regarding gut health and tissue health because assessing frailty is such a difficult thing to do. And there's a bunch of anti-aging markers, biomarkers, inflammation, CRP, but nothing gives really a specific action plan.
Mhm.
But with the kynurenine assessment, it does give an action plan and a better assessment and better correlation.
Beautiful.
So, in their study, they looked at 85 community dwelling adults ages 65 to 90. So the median age was just a little bit younger than you. And as they looked at these different markers, they thought about how there's increased oxidative stress when there's increased kynurenine. There's cellular senescence. So notice that I did have Xeno gene up there. Yes. And just the opposite, of course, is when we get into those other metabolites where the house is being built, the house of energy is being created. Then we see muscle repair, we see mitochondrial energy metabolism, and bone health.
Wow.
Yeah. So just kind of a summary again about what they were seeing. When there were higher levels of kynurenine or things that pointed to poor metabolism going on, then there were higher levels of IL-6. There was lower muscle strength, slower speed, greater frailty. All right, and the rest of this gets kind of thick. So again, it's looking for a reliable biomarker for the early detection of sarcopenia and frailty. All right. How's that for an information dump on Tuesday? Oh, geez. But
Well, it all comes down to resilience. Again, this is something which the aging process and we talk about building a better body. At a certain point, people have to understand that their ability to build a better body will decline with advancing age unless you do something about it. And we tell people to go to the gym and work out, but if you go to the gym and work out and it feels like torture and you don't get any results, Who's going to do that? So a lot of the time, Natalie and I talk about making exercise easier and more enjoyable. By reducing inflammation, you make exercise easier and more enjoyable. By improving your metabolic health, which is what this is all about, exercise becomes easier and more enjoyable. And so, since the human body is built to move, we are designed to move. And when we don't move, bad things happen. So we do tend to talk a lot about exercise on this Zoom. And at the same time, we want to make sure that you know that we're not beating you over the head to go and join the gym and work out hours a day for 3 days a week. We're not saying that. We're saying that we have a way to improve your metabolic health, and in doing so, exercise will be easier and more enjoyable.
So if someone comes to us and says, do you have anything to help me better understand inflammation?
Yeah.
We have 4 tests that do that. And of course, it's the balance test, looking at your omega-3 fats, as well as omega-6 saturated fats and monounsaturated fat, your olive oil level. We have the gut health test. We just talked about that big association of kynurenine and inflammation, and that inflammation stops the healthy process of getting the kynurenine properly processed. And then vitamin D, the vitamin D test, which I have nearby here. Yes. And it's November, so it's a good time to
Yikes.
test your vitamin D. Yes. And then, of course,
Where'd the sun go?
I know. Our gray days. And then, of course, the hemoglobin A1C, which looks for sugar spikes. And yes, sugar is inflammatory. And it is so inflammatory that it causes immune cells to go from jogging to slogging. Yeah, they slow down. So, do we have any tests that help look at inflammation? Yes, all 4 tests do that. All right, we've got some other good questions here. Let me take a look here. Um, all right, Carl asks about a family member. Um, so he's wondering about someone who is having a cell disorder, a blood cell disorder. And again, this is cellular health, head to toe. And if they have a cellular disorder, yes, they definitely want to make sure that they get into balance. And the cell disorder he's asking about talks about cells that just don't behave themselves right when they're moving through the bloodstream.
Mm.
And so having a cell with a good composition that's in the safe zone, where your omega-6 to omega-3 is 3 to 1 or better, allows that cell to be more flexible as it moves through those little tiny capillaries.
Mm.
And it helps reduce the stickiness of the cells where they're less likely to clump together in an unhealthy way. So that's really important.
All right, quiz time. How many miles of blood vessels do you have in your body?
8.
Thank you, Paul.
It's about 5,000 miles.
Oh,
About 5,000 miles of blood vessels, and the vast majority of those blood
oh,
vessels.
it travels 8.
The vast majority, 42 is the number. No, the vast majority of those blood vessels are capillaries, and they're much, much thinner than the diameter of a human hair, much thinner than a human hair. So the idea is that the red blood cells, right, which are carrying the oxygen, have to line up in single file. And the question is, how do they know to do that? Well, they just do. All right, they have to line up in single file to get through these capillaries. And what Natalie's talking about is if they're not fluid, they don't do a very good job, which means you have problems with circulation. So at the very core of the issue here is getting the oxygen and the fuel to the cells that are needing this, right? And the ability that you have, all right, the ability that you have taking your balance oil, taking your blue juice, managing inflammation, the opportunity that you have to improve circulation at the cell level simply because you've improved the ability of those red blood cells to get to the cells which are needing oxygen and fuel. Okay.
The next gentleman, he has a good question too, which is does balanced oil work when you are having water retention problems, when you're more puffy? And yes, that's really important. Again, we're talking about how cellular membrane health helps red blood cells do their job as they're flowing through the body. And as cells work better, tissues work better. And so it makes sense to get every cell of the body to work its best and get that person into the safe zone and keep them there to optimize whether it's how they're doing their water distribution in their body related to their kidneys, their heart, their liver, the muscles in their legs, the flow of our blood, all of that. Let's see. What if someone is allergic to fish? Can they take Zinzino for inflammation? And we actually have a friend who's allergic to fish, and he takes balance oil because the allergen comes from the proteins, not from the fats. And he does just fine with it. If your client is very concerned, there's an alternative. And that, of course, is the Aqua X.
Aqua X.
Yep. And it's a vegan one that comes from algae. And as you may have heard, Zinzino has acquired Plantionics, and they're working on making a new kind of algae-based balance oil that will be even better than the Aqua X that we have right now. Whether people are pregnant or they're elderly or they're young and spry, it's important for everyone to be in balance to optimize cellular health. And for pregnant women, I speak of my Build a Better Baby program.
Build a Better Baby, yes.
Please, that the mother be in balance and stay in balance starting a year before getting pregnant, and the father be in balance and stay in balance starting at least 6 months before initiating the pregnancy. And then she asks, does the Kyme experience change when someone has hormonal changes like teens and young adults maturing? Sure. So it goes back to, is the individual feeling stress? And so the bigger picture of their health, no matter what their age is, no matter what hormonal experience they're having. And that's the great thing about that this company has 4 tests. This is personalized nutrition. It's not, oh, you're in this category, you're going through some sort of hormonal change, thus I'm just going to make this assumption about your nutritional status. No, we test and don't guess. It's very personalized. Great question. Susan, great. For this cellular condition you mentioned, would addition of xenogene be beneficial in addition to the health protocol? Yes. And so we have our xenogene nearby here because we're talking about managing stress, managing the inflammatory stress. And Xenogene is the product that first caught our eye when we were introduced to Zinzino. When we looked at the formulation, we were very impressed. We knew Zinzino knew what they were doing. And then the whole idea of testing and not guessing, wow. Yes, we definitely came on board. And Jennifer, thank you so much for being our friend and okay with teasing answering all your questions about the Golgi apparatus. You're lovely. One question about Protect. Do you recommend that everyone take it every day? We have been taking it when we travel, or if anyone feels like they might be coming down with something. Thoughts?
I personally am a big fan of a highly varied natural foods diet, regular exercise, adequate hydration, and very moderate, if any, alcohol. And that being the foundation, my immune system is very happy.
He also gets his beta glucans in Xenobiotic
Right.
and Extend.
Right.
So he's getting them in his body every day already too. So
I use Protect only when I'm traveling, only when I'm under stress. or feeling the impending signs of an illness, which is the scratchy throat or the little congestion, then I would reach for Protect. So personally, I don't take it on a daily basis.
No, but if there's ill contact with the grandchildren,
Yeah, that's
yes.
true too. We spend a lot of time with our grandchildren, and sometimes they show up and they got green snot, and then of course run for the Protect.
Can balance oil be given to puppies? That's a great question. And we have a friend who soaks her little dog's treats in the balance oil, and this elderly dog does fine with that. Um, some some people might have concerns about the flavoring for the balance oil, but her dog does fine with
Yeah.
it. And I like the idea of how you're thinking about giving puppies that benefit, with the omega-3s, build a smarter dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same alliteration, but build a better dog. Yes. Um, May I ask where your tonight's call will be posted? And I will be editing it, and then it will go to our YouTube channel, which is Natalie Cherniske. And that's Natalie, and then Cherniske, Cherniske. So thank you for asking about that. We have last week's Zoom get together already posted on there. All right, is Xenogene safe for people taking a cholesterol medication? And
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
and people that are taking cholesterol medications often have underlying issues of inflammation and senescent cells, and Xenogene helps address those. All right.
Oh, interesting question about senescent cells. What are they? Real quick, I'm only gonna take 60 seconds here. Your cells are not static. They are, as we discussed at length last week, they are dynamic. Part of the dynamism of the cell is that it has the ability to reproduce itself. It has the ability to produce daughter cells. And this is part of the overall renewal process that we're constantly involved in. Now, at a certain point, the cell can no longer divide. And that's called, it has reached what's called the Hayflick limit. You might have remembered that from Bio 101. Yeah, after the Hayflick limit, the cell is just sitting there, right? It's not doing what it's supposed to do. And your immune system is supposed to recognize that and gobble it up and recycle the materials, right? So that's what a senescent cell is. Usually it has reached its Hayflick limit. It's just hanging out, waiting to be devoured by your immune system, and the parts are recycled. But what do we know about aging? We know that the immune system is busy doing other things. Most people have one or more resident infections, right? The immune system is busy dealing with those resident infections, whether the infection is in your nervous system, like any of the herpetic infections, whether the infection is a chronic lung infection, whatever you got going on. As we get older, our immune system is busy managing resident infections, right? At the same time, as we get older, what else goes on? Really quick, your thymus that was producing NK cells, natural killer cells, your thymus basically involutes and so stops working. So now you've got another immune system compromised. So all those senescent cells that are supposed to be gobbled up, they don't get gobbled up. They hang out. And as Natalie says, they don't just sit there, they produce inflammation. Oh no.
It makes the kynurenine level go up because it blocks the processes for that kynurenine to be turned into those better those healthier metabolites.
Xenogene, the compounds in xenogene have been shown to help your immune system to recognize those senescent cells, to gobble them up, to get rid of them. And this is like spring cleaning. It's like taking out the garbage. It's important for you to understand here, if you're over 50, this is a product that you need to be taking.
And so these senescent cells, you may also know them as ghost cells or zombie cells.
Yeah.
All right.
How'd we do?
I think we're doing well, and thank you everyone for participating. And Mary says yes, she gives premium balance oil to her dogs, and she's having great benefits with that. Thank you
Build
for
a
sharing
designer
that.
dog.
Build it. Wait, what? That's something
Build
different.
a designer dog.
Build a healthy dog. Build a better dog. All right. Thank you for participating with us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for all you do.
Bye
Have
for
a
now.
great day. Bye. Thanks, Brenda.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
happy healthy
you.
days.
Thank you very
Lovely
much.
to see you guys.
Thank you.